Hello, I'm Andrew Hara, the host of the Bomb Squad. I wanted to tell you about my movies. All are available on Tubi, which is a free streaming service. The last one is a zombie drama about how a pandemic and isolation could drive a group of people mad. When the virus hits, John finds himself alone and scared until he meets Michael, his protector. But when Karina, another survivor, enters the mix, everything that John and Michael knew will be turned on its head. The last one's is a zombie virus movie that's somehow even more relevant today. Plus, it has zombies. Check it out. Borderland is a mexploitation film about living in El Paso. When Sarah finds herself in debt to the cartels, she has until sunrise to find some missing monies with the help of her executioner. Borderland is a true midnight movie and a lot of fun. Finally, the documentary Humble Spirits tells the story of the Hahn family, including champion Jennifer Hahn from El Paso, Texas. The entire Hahn family has grown up in the combat sports and has helped shape who they are both in and out of the ring. Humble Spirits, a family of fighters, is the perfect documentary for boxing fans of all ages. Check out Tubi to watch all my films. Finally, The Empty Space, winner of multiple awards, including the Sacramento Horror Film Festival's Best of the Fest, is a cosmic horror about Amy Andrews, who's dealing with anxiety and depression after a violent attack that killed her husband. As she tries to find herself, she starts to lose her grasp on reality. Or could it be something much more sinister? The Empty Space is full of twists and turns, with Grace DeWilder of Rue Morgue magazine calling it a powerful film full of excellent performances by practically every cast member. All of Andrew Hada's movies are available to rent or buy on streaming services such as Tubi, Amazon, and many other places. We hope that you help support us by watching these films. Now, let's start the Bomb Squad. What's up, guys? Welcome to the Bomb Squad. We are talking about a great movie today. This is definitely our first conversation about this. So today we're talking about 1990s Tremors. We're just gonna get right into it, as if we've already talked about this once before, and our app got ruined the recording.
Yeah.
It was directed by Ron Underwood. It was written by S.S. Wilson, Brent Maddock, and Ron Underwood. It stars Kevin Bacon, Fred Ward. It stars Reba McEntire. It stars Burt Gummer. Burt Gummer is played by Michael Gross.
I only know him as the legend Burt Gummer, having seen later films. So
it stars. You don't know Michael Gross? He's like in a billion.
No,
things.
I do, but
okay. It also stars Ariana Richards in one of her three roles, other than Angus. Everyone's favorite movie that grew up, Angus, and also that other movie that she did, Jurassic Park, that no one's ever heard of.
Yeah, it's a chiller.
Yeah, Angus is actually pretty good. Maybe we'll do Angus one day. I don't remember if it's good. I just remember that I saw it.
I remember seeing the video cover at Hastings and Blockbuster all the time. That's about my history with Angus.
It was definitely a staple of the a whole wall at the rental place.
And you're like, oh, and then you just never rent it. Yeah.
Yeah, I did rent it one
kid
time.
Is just like, it's like the cover is that kid's face, just like all goofy as hell. Yeah.
He's like a normal kid, but he's fat. It's like that's the whole premise of that movie. Josh, why don't you take us down to Perfection, Nevada, which I knew from the beginning, and tell us what this movie is about.
Just one word: graboids, graboids, graboids.
It is the infamous graboids.
Please grab me.
The town of Perfection is beset by graboids, but only two wayward cowboys can set things right.
So, guys, before we continue, I will say if this seems a little bit wacky, it's because we did talk about this for a good 30 minutes about this movie on Wednesday, and then it got messed up because it's too hot in the planet, and so we're re-recording it. We've already one of the things is when I was saying the cast, I was like, am I gonna make the same joke I made last time about the writers? And I was like, nah, I won't do it. That's weird.
You've got to make the same joke.
This isn't a studio production.
You gotta go for it. I'm gonna make all the same jokes. That's all I got.
That's good.
But just saying graboid was my only joke, so I'm already done.
The one thing that I can repeat is that Tremors is one of those films that's like, it is so well done. Like, if you are interested in filmmaking or if you're interested in screenwriting, you should watch this film. If anyone tells you like, "Hey, you should read Save the Cat," be like, "No, I already saw Tremors. It's basically the same thing."
Yeah.
Because Tremors is so good that it kind of feels like one of those movies that just really works. It works on every level, from the cast to the writing to the kind of setup.
Yeah, no, I would agree, and I think like it's almost one of those like you don't know what you've got till it's gone, because like this kind of like blend of like comedy and horror with special like that kind of like special practical effects and stuff. It's like, oh, like you literally wouldn't see this movie get made today,
right?
Because they just don't make movies with practical effects like this about this. That's not like a franchise picture or something,
right? If they made it today, it'd be like such a novelty.
It really is.
It'd be like, hey, look at this throwback to all these like different things that we used to do.
Yeah.
Like this is like the ultimate like the word creature feature. Like that's what Tremors is. Like this is the ultimate version of that. And yeah, like not having such a huge budget really, I don't know, it made them get super creative on like what they had to do. And something we kind of touched on the first conversation, I won't mention that again, is that it's just so like the practical effects like do make it feel like you're like at a theme park. Like it's just like the characters are so outrageous and silly, but they're super fun. And like, I don't know, all the things that the actors have to do are just like so, I don't know, well thought out and distinguishable and followable actions that it feels like you're actually there in Perfection, Nevada, like having to get through this Tremors thing with these guys. And it was just such an amazing watch for sure.
Yeah. So, and speaking of which, before we continue, I do want to say, so like, yeah, the movie is about these two guys. They're kind of like the handyman of this small town in Utah. The town has like one store and like 4 other houses, and everyone just kind of lives there. They don't even really explain what the main export
maybe
is.
sheep.
I think it's just like
there's a sheep farm.
And so, yeah, there's a sheep farm.
Yeah.
And so these two guys, they like plan to leave the town, and as they're leaving, they find out that there's some kind of beast that's attacked the town, and he lives underground, and he eats people from the bottom up. And so the whole movie is just them kind of dealing with these giant worms.
Yeah.
And so like it's very basic, and so you'd think like there's an easy way to make this movie like a sci-fi original, so to speak, you know? But one of the reasons that Tremors has lasted so long is just because of how well written it is. Even like the camera work, like one of the first people they meet is they're driving out of town, and then they see like some dude on a telephone pole or telephone wire, and they're like, "Hey, isn't that that old man who lives around here? Let's go check on him." So they go ask him like, "Hey, what's going on?" And then they notice that he's stuck up there and he's just dead. But the shots are like we're looking down from his point of view, and as they're walking up, and then when we finally look up at him, we see him like hanging off of the thing, like looking down at the ground. And just that little scene conveys so much about what's to come without saying really anything. And like the characters don't know what's going on because they're super confused, and they just thought that he like got drunk up there and died, you know, because he's kind of old. But like that's kind of how well written the movie is. Like it just everything kind of plays into everything else.
Yeah, like it's almost like so like it's you don't even think about how much like kind of care goes into just that like setup, but like your brain does, because you're like, oh, I understand this perfectly. And I think part of that is it's like, oh yeah, they really did go to like this little town and then have like a guy hang off of like a big like, you know, like tower thing. So it's like, okay, get this shot, this shot, this shot. Versus like green screening it and being like, oh, we don't know, like we don't even know where they're going to be looking during the green screen. They just have to react to something. So I don't know. I think all the practical effects really like help sell this movie, you know?
Yeah, and I think like one of the good things is it does that thing that a lot of the movies do, where it is like the Tremors have orange blood, you know, like the Predators have green blood and the aliens have yellow blood.
Yeah.
just for no reason, giving them different blood than they should have. I think it's super cool.
They're truly not
I
of
also
this earth, I think. I actually don't
yes,
know what the implication of them is.
I think they do that thing that a lot of '80s movies do, where they
Like they're
just
maybe from
they,
underground, maybe from
they start off by
space.
like showing us space, and they're like, "That's good enough of an implication." Like
Yeah,
we got it.
they probably came from there. Yeah.
Yeah, like they got it. You understand. And then like, but that's the other thing. It's the famous like if you're dealing with a bunch of cowboys who've never seen this thing, like they're not gonna take the time to find out where it's from. They're like, we gotta kill this thing as quickly as possible because it's gonna eat everyone.
Yeah. It's a good I do find it in a lot of horror movies, people don't react credibly to like whatever supernatural threat they're dealing with. And I feel like this is kind of one of those movies where you're like, oh, even though this is kind of like leaning into the comedy, it's like no, it really is like you would see these like kind of small town cowboys react this way, be like, oh shit, just shoot it.
Right, right. Yeah, I think that's, and I think like because you have Kevin Bacon, you have Fred Ward who play the two leads, and they're kind of like one of my favorite things about them is how like nobody really takes them. Not that they don't take them seriously, but they kind of like they're like somewhat of jerk offs. Like they're
Yeah,
just kind of they're there like they're very friendly, they're very there to help, but they're not exactly like who you call when you need. But again, because it's established at the beginning that they're the handyman of the town, so they'll take whatever odd job is on its way. And so, but that like later helps them out because when they're like, you watch like I think of the arguments for Salt when they're like, how does this little girl beat up this guy? And it's like it's a training, but like these guys like their training has been like their whole lives of like just doing whatever needed to be done.
yeah, like dumb, dangerous things, but also like kind
Yeah.
of like, oh, that they learned how to like start like a tractor and stuff like that. So
Right, right, right. Or they know like what's loud and what's not loud.
yeah,
But yeah. So I think it's also like one of my favorite parts of the film is at the beginning when like okay, so they find the old man, they see him, and then but they don't know because they just think he got drunk and like dehydrated up there. And so the next day they like go to this sheep farm as they're on their way out of town, and all the sheep have been killed. And then they pick up. They're like, "Hey, here's Lester's lucky hat." And they pick up his hat, and the dude's head is like there, and he's like he's very silly. But then they're taking off, and they're like, it because you think like rational people would go back to the town and like let people know, like, "Hey, they just killed this other guy," but instead they are driving out of town, and they're like, "Oh yeah, don't like." They run into some construction workers, and they're like
oh yeah, doing
don't
the
go back into
jackhammer.
town. Yeah,
Yeah,
they're doing the jackhammer.
yeah, like
Like,
someone's
don't go
killing
back.
someone.
Like they're cutting people's heads off. And so but then like the guys are like, that's Roy and Val. Like they're being silly or whatever. Or they're like, who believes those guys? And and then they try to and so then the jackhammer guy's like jackhammering and he puts it into the ground and you see like orange ooze show up, which you'll find out later is blood. And then you see like the jackhammer take off in the ground, like it's still connected, but it's like going through the road. And the guy who's like connected to it gets swept and he gets taken away. And the tremor like kind of takes him over the mountain. So his friend's like, "Oh no, what's happening?" He runs to it, and then a bunch like the tremor just moving through the dirt causes a bunch of rocks to have like a landslide,
Right.
and it kills the second guy, but it also covers the only road out of town. So through that one scene, which is like maybe 2 minutes, they like up the stakes. They make it so that Roy and Val and Earl are still the only people who know what's going on because again, they're the only ones who've read this thing and are still alive.
Right.
And they've blocked off the only place in town. So it's like just that one little part is so well crafted with the rest of it that you're like, hell yeah, like this movie works so well.
Yeah, no, like it's very like kind of like William was saying, it's like very like point A to B to C. It's like you see all the steps, but they make it look so easy. It's like you almost like mistake the simplicity. Like it's like no, this is like a lot of like care went into this.
Yeah, definitely. And definitely like well, and it's that thing where it's kind of funny because you're thinking of movies now, and like they all are so kind of not generic, but they're like you kind of know where it's going. Where this movie, like, it's not exactly like there's not a lot of twists, but you kind of like you get to explore every single aspect of this character. Like we see, and by character I mean the creature. Like we see how much, how like what can hurt it, what can hurt it. Like there's a lot of trial and error, um, and stuff like that. So like there's that part,
Yeah, they
and I
also
think that that's
like
okay.
the threat is very, because I feel like and this is kind of funny because this is kind of the generic sci-fi thing will be like, oh, we're gonna film, we have no budget, we're gonna film in a small town, and just like it'll just be some like I don't know, like some CGI monster, like we have to like chase around a building or something. But in this one it's like no, the tremors, like the graboids, always come up from the ground, so they're using like the natural landscape of like, oh, there's a bunch of big rocks in the desert, we have to like get on the rocks, and it's like you
Right,
immediately
right,
understand that and be like, okay, how do you get from one rock to the other? They kind of have to like pole vaults, you know, and it's like this like kind of again like kind of like a theme park type sequence of them like pole vaulting from rock to rock, but it's like you understand the stakes, you understand the threat, and then you're like, okay, how do they get out of this? Because it's just like a very comprehensible situation to be in, you know, just like, okay, don't touch the ground,
right.
how do you like leave, you know? I don't know, it's really cool.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I think like again, all the characters because you have the guy who runs the store, and you have there's like an archaeologist. You have like some weirdo gun nuts or like conspiracy theorists, and so you just have a lot of the characters who are there and like they feel really like they feel lived in, but it creates a lot of different personalities. Like you have the mom who seems to have just kind of been stuck there with her daughter, and she's like a teacher. Um, and so like it is very interesting. Yeah, so I think like with the town, you have a lot of the characters. Like you have well, and we talked about this a little bit last time, but you have like you have Wong who runs a store. You have Miguel who's like kind of just lives
Mm-hmm.
there. But you have like this really diverse cast. And I think like not just diverse in race, but diverse in how they attribute. Like
Yeah.
because every time I say diverse, I also include Bert Gummer, who's like the gun nut, who's like I mean he's a white
Yeah.
guy,
He's
but his
different.
ideals are
Yeah, he's
so
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
different.
bunker survivalist, yeah, kind of end of the world. Which it is funny because obviously this movie it's like 1990, so it's like
Yeah.
all the weird hardcore hyper politicization, not part of it. You
Yeah.
know, it's
It's
like
like on
this
the
is just
fringes, but
Right.
it's
supposed to
like
be
not
kind of like
near the
an
level it is here.
yeah, it's like
Yeah.
kind of played for like it's played for laughs. It's like there's still like a good town of like good people, and
Right.
that's almost what makes it kind of work. Is in a lot of like zombie movies and stuff. As soon as people are like trapped together, they start arguing and like they hate each other.
Yeah.
In this movie, they band together pretty well and be like, no, we have to like stop
These
these
fucking monsters.
graboids
Yeah.
from
Right.
getting
Yeah, it's like a real
us.
sense of community.
Yeah,
Like it's like
Yeah.
played for laughs, like the town name, like perfection,
Yeah.
but it's like at the same time, like that's kind of what the characters learn, or at least that's what Kevin Bacon and Fred Ward learn, is that like, you can look for the things, but like there's also a lot of great stuff going on around you. And like that really adds to the watchability of this film as well. Just like what we're talking about. Like everyone just loves each other, even if they kind of also hate each other. And yeah, it's just I don't know. It
Yeah.
was way different than
It,
I remember seeing this as a kid, and I didn't really notice stuff like that. And then I watched it another time a few years later. But watching it this time, I was like just really surprised at how just like entertaining it was. Like it was just like it's such
yeah.
a I don't know. It's like not super unknown, I guess, but this should be like a major classic that like
Right.
everyone's always talking
See, and
about.
I think it's funny because as a kid growing up, it's kind of one of those movies that I attribute like with Rocky and with even Star Wars, where like TNT played this movie like every day, like
Oh
especially
yeah,
in the summer,
yeah,
like
yeah,
this one
yeah.
in Jaws. So like I watch like Tremors like every 5 years or something. But I can literally like tell you every single line of dialogue in this movie just because I've seen it as a kid
Oh
so much,
yeah.
you know. But and I think that that is kind of one of the shitty things that is like that we've lost. Like, because in Netflix, like, yes, you can see anything, but are people really like taking a risk on some random movie cover? You know?
Right.
and and so I think like that's kind of the thing that we miss the most with Blockbuster, and even just finding like something on TV, because like Netflix, you're never gonna find yourself in the middle of a movie, but like there was times where you're like, hey, it's Kevin Bacon, what the hell is this?
Right.
Like, what movie is
and like
this?
even like having like whenever cable came out later and like satellite and all that kind of stuff, like just like having all the HBOs and everything, like I've seen so many movies millions of times over and over again just for that exact reason. And like I kind of missed that. I kind of miss like really intimately knowing the last half of like 18 movies. Like just I don't know. It's like that was such a fun time to be alive.
Yes.
I remember like I think of the other ones like Cemetery Man, which maybe we'll talk about soon. Who knows? That was one where we started watching it like halfway through, and I was like, "Ooh, what the hell is this?" And then I was like, "Okay, but really, what is this? Like, let's let's watch the beginning of this again." You know?
Right, and that's because like you can't like if you click on something on Netflix, it's going to show you the description. So it's like you'll always know pretty much what you're in for. You're never just stumbling across anything. So even if you want to be like, oh, just look at it, you'd have to like close your eyes for the first couple minutes to like.
Right.
Well, I think of a movie that actually has a lot of similar vibes to this movie. I think of Abigail and how like they were talking about it, how someone rented it, and then they like opened the thing to watch it, and it gave away the twist of the film, and it's like, oh yeah, I guess you can't really like you couldn't even play it.
The trailer gives away the twist. You know?
Yeah. But I'm saying like this guy had avoided the trailer up until this point.
Oh yeah.
And like trailers aren't that important because once they're out once they're released on video, like nobody's really going back and watching trailers. You know? And so I think of or like Army of Darkness, like. There was like a whole wall of Army of Darkness covers, and I was like, this kind of looks like He-Man, so let's rent it. And then we rented it, and we loved that movie. Yeah. And then, like, 5 years later, because we saw it when we were, like, in middle school, and then, like, one time during high school, someone was like, we were like, there's more Evil Dead. Like these movies are called The Evil Dead, and there's more.
Yeah. So even like before, like the internet, like told
like,
you
what the hell?
Like before, there was like a million lists of
exactly
what to watch before Army of Darkness and after. Like everything is so like told to you now, which is cool.
10 clues.
Yeah, I do get because today Army of Darkness would be Army of Darkness and Evil Dead, like experience,
right?
You know,
in the world of Evil Dead, you know, or actually it would have been called like Evil Dead Past or something. Like it wouldn't have even been called Army of Darkness.
Yeah, like evil. It would have one of those like Evil Dead Retribution, you know, something like that.
See, and it's also like again with this movie, like there is no sequel bait. There's no real like let's continue the story. They're like, no, we're telling a very tight, smart story right now.
Yeah.
And we're going to have a lot of fun, and then you're going to leave. Like, again, like Josh has this picture, and it works perfectly. This movie is very reminiscent of Jaws.
I was going to say that too.
Of Jaws. And, like, I think William mentioned this the other one. I'm going to steal it from him. But, like, in Spielberg does this, the Coen brothers does this, and it happens in Tremors too, where, like, you, all the characters feel real. Like, I think of Jaws and the one who goes, oh, what? When they're talking about the tiger sharks. And like that line, it's like William immediately knew who I was talking about just by saying 2 words. And it's nothing to do with me, but it has everything to do with like that scene is so memorable. But that character, I don't even know if you see him again because he's so unimportant. But he just feels like he's part of that town, you know?
Everyone's just like so quirky and kind of weird, but like they don't overdo it. But it's just like it makes everyone just like you said, it's like, or like I can't give out no information in No Country for Old Men. Like just like those little quirky people. Like this that's what all the people in this movie are, just little quirky people. In the best way.
Yeah, and I think it's also in the good way, because there's the Ariana Richards plays the young girl of the town, and she like has a pogo stick and she has headphones. But, like, when you see her doing it earlier, you're not like, oh, that's going to come into play. Because, again, you really don't know what's going to happen. But then when you see it later, because the tremors, like, go off of vibrations. And so you see the thing jumping. But, again, they have to save her, and the mom's, like, freaking out. And Kevin Bacon just runs and grabs her. And, like, I think that they've had one conversation before that scene. Yeah. And that conversation was the little girl ignoring the two guys because they were like, "Hey, Mindy," and she just pogoes away. Yeah. But it's like, because everyone feels so lived in, it's the same thing. Like, if you saw your neighbor in trouble, you try to help him if you could. You know, it's the exact same thing in this situation. And I think like that makes it even better. Like, it makes it feel even more lived in.
Right. Because then you're not just relating to the main characters; you're relating to the entire town, which makes you like relate to. The
you get into the town's struggle essentially.
It makes it easier to like, because like Wong is the store owner.
Chang.
He's also like Chang. Sorry. Chang is the store owner. He plays Wong in something. He's the store owner, and he like he's old. He's not making it to the end of this. But when he dies, you're like, no, not Chang. You know, like, you want everyone to live because, like, you know, there's that part, like, they all have like these little moments where they're not even like, there's a scene earlier we didn't talk about where the guys get one of the graboids. Like, the graboids, they are big worms, but they have like these snakes that come out and grab you.
Yeah, they kind of like search.
Yeah, they have like weird tongues,
and they
like
grab their
snake tongues.
Yeah, and they're all slimy. Yeah. Bring back more slimy.
Each tongue has like a mouth on it. Yeah, it's very
It was great. It was.
I do also like. I know that I'm getting away from my original point. Also, one of the great things about this movie is they stink.
Oh,
They don't ever talk about how these animals smell, but in this movie they make a point to be like, they reek,
which is awesome.
Very
funny. And it's like, because he says, "Does it just smell like that because he's dead?" Like, well, I guess unless he has rapid decomposition, but like even Jurassic Park, they don't even really talk about that except for the big pile of shit.
I know,
but that's about it.
And then they have that great line where they're like, "I thought it smelled bad when it was dead."
Yeah.
Because it smells worse when it's alive. But my point is, like, they're all like so they grab these things and they find it and they don't know what it is, and then Chang is like, "Oh, I'll give you $5 for this," and then they're like 15, and he's like 10. They're like, "Okay, deal," and they like, but it's like, there's no reason to include this information because it's like, it's not like they do anything with it, but like, it's just such a funny thing to show everyone in the town and how they're reacting.
Right. But it's also like, this is clearly like a discovery worth tens of thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands of dollars, and they're like $10 to take pictures with it. You know,
they immediately treat it as a toy.
My rent once in 10 years.
Yeah. And then again, like, there's no visitors at Perfection.
No. They can't afford a billboard.
Right.
To advertise these crazy pictures.
The other 15 people that live there just
The only two people who go to that town are construction workers, and they're currently being eaten. So you guys are not going to sell anything.
Yeah, but like this movie too, it does a really good job of because first they're kind of out in the desert, and they're like, okay, they're back to town, and then they get to the roofs. And you're like, okay, they can wait it out there. And then until you realize, like, oh no, these things can like eat out the structures, kind of like, so it's like they have to move. Mm-hmm. And then they kind of that's where they kind of go back to the gun nuts who've retreated into their bunker, Reba and Burt Gummer. And one of the rabbits like bursts through the wall. And of course, one of the best scenes in the movie is them just using every gun they have to just empty it, just squibs every second coming off of this giant thing. It's great.
Yeah. My favorite part is like, because you see like in John Wick or in The Matrix, like there's always that scene where they walk into the weapons room,
right,
and you see them like grab a bunch of weapons, but you don't ever really see them do that to use them all. Oh, they use them all in this movie.
They even make their own pipe bombs.
Like it literally Reba double fisting like magnums, like it's but the point is they kill it eventually because they do literally shoot it like hundreds of times. And you're like, okay, they could just shoot him at least, but then when they kind of get out, they're like, oh no, we could only do that because it came into our room. Like you can't actually hit them underground. So it's like that's really not gonna work like long term. So it's like they find a solution immediately. It's like quashed. It's kind of a good like escalating like problem, Like I feel like a lot of horror movies, it's just like the problem like stays the same the whole time. It's like, oh, they're always running from the killer, and this is like, no, it keeps changing. Like, okay, what do we have
it gets
to do
smarter,
next,
starts
And I will say, just for clarification, when Josh said that Reba was double fisting Magnum, she meant Magnum guns.
She was shooting off.
She was double fisting her husband.
She was not
the guns.
she was not double fisting the other thing. I would never say that about Miss Reba McEntire.
I don't know. Maybe there's a director's cut that only Josh watched that we didn't watch. But
Tremors. Fissured, anal fissures.
With a Z.
Yes.
Yeah. And like that's the thing. The other thing that I like that we didn't talk about the first time is the Tremors are smart.
Yeah.
They're smart, but they're smart for an animal. Like one of my favorite things about the Tremors is if they just kind of grab anything that's moving and they'll eat it, but they'll shoot it out if it's not edible. So they'll shoot things out of their mouths, and you just see like at one point he gets the jackhammer and he shoots it out into the air,
right,
and he just kind of spits it out. And so I think that that's kind of a cool. That is what an animal would do, and so but they learn not. They try to eat a car at one point. They realize it's too big, and stuff like that. So like it's funny to see everything. Like the stakes are not only getting bigger for the humans, but they're also getting bigger for the Tremors because like at first they can just eat whoever, and they're having like a buffet pretty much. But as the humans realize and start fighting back, the Tremors also realize and start fighting back too. So again, like no one, like there are people who act dumb, but that's just because there's dumb characters in this movie. Right. But there's nobody who seems to act purposely dumb to help advance the plot. If anything, they're almost very smart about a lot of things. It's just like the Tremors are smart too.
Yeah, I totally agree. And it really helps that there wasn't like a computer around to where somebody could like be like, oh, this has been rumored to be in Peru and this is exactly how it behaves. Like it's fucking like that's part of like the theme park thing I'm talking about, where it's just like you feel like you're just like on this journey with them in a way that like a lot of movies
reacting
don't do.
to it.
Like, you don't know anything else either. It was so good. It was so much fun.
And I think it is that kind of thing, like the theme park. Because again, in a theme park, like they lock you in and you're just stuck until the ride's over. And that's very much even for the characters. Like William said, there is no call. Like they think they break. Oh, because again, just to be very smart, that guy being on top of the telephone pole breaks it cuts the wires, so they can't even call out.
Right.
And so, like again, like that scene is so like again, it's just a nothing scene, but it informs the rest of the movie. And so there's no outside help. They have to do everything themselves, which makes it scarier and also makes it funner for us.
Right. And it also kind of goes in with like the gun nuts, because at one point they're talking about like that's why they settled in this region, was because it's so like out in the fucking middle of nowhere. And so it's like it doesn't like really take a side on like whether like survivalism is good or bad, or like whether trying to leave this city is good or bad. It's like this is just what people would do in this little town, and this is who would populate it. And then in the end it all pretty works out well. But yeah, just like the way they and like I think we didn't mention that, like, did we talk about the rocks blocking the road?
We haven't. Oh, we did talk about them blocking the road, but not the other rocks that they jump on.
Oh yeah, I think that the pole vaulting scene is my favorite scene, because that was like
kind of starts.
I do love that
like
scene.
What?
With that, yeah.
If I had to pole vault, like I would just like not do it. I'd be like, I'll be on this rock until it's done, because I'm not gonna.
That would be
come back.
That would be such a cool part of the Tremors theme park experience with your pole vaulting from rock to rock. That would be so.
That would be the part where everyone's ankle breaks.
Yeah.
And fall off.
So like, there's
they'd be soft rocks somehow.
They're like stuck on this rock, and it's like Kevin Bacon, Fred Ward, and the scientist, and they have nowhere to go to their truck because the tremor will get them. But then all of a sudden, the scientist sees 3 extremely smooth, long sticks next to their rock, and it's like, I've got an idea, guys. And then she's like, y'all ever been pole vaulting? And then she just fucking pole vaults perfectly to the next rock. And then
I love that they just find them.
Fred Ward's like,
I do like the idea of just knowing how to pole vault,
right?
Because I've never done it in my life. I assume you guys have.
I've never had to for any practical reason. And then Fred Ward's like, any of your blondes know how to pole vault? As he pole vaults to the next rock, and it's like, no one fucking knows how to pole vault.
Nobody does.
This is the only 3 people.
This isn't an applicable talent.
But no, it is pretty smart too what they do, because essentially what they do, they get like a 4x4, like a 4-wheeler, and they like just set it to just go, so the Tremors will like follow that, and then they all run to a tractor, and it's gonna like tow them like to kind of get everyone in the town, and then that's kind of when they come up with like, okay, we'll use all of this like gun nut stuff to make pipe bombs, and blow these Tremors sky high.
To be fair, Bert just makes those pipe bombs.
Yeah.
They don't really know what they're going to use them for when they make them.
He's done this before.
He would have been at January 6th, let's be honest. But
he definitely
the trajectory is not good.
That would be 30 years in the future.
Trump broke that guy's brain one way or another. Like, he either got more or he got less.
Reba either left him or fell victim herself. It was not a good time.
We haven't gotten into the sequels yet, but we know that she leaves him. So
that's not good.
Yeah.
Also, one thing is, but even that scene. So they're on a big tractor and they're trying to get out of the city, but the problem is the Tremors are like destroying the earth underneath it, so that they can get them stuck. And you see them try it a couple of times, like when they stop to get the gun nuts. You see them try it. And then you see them succeed later to get the people stuck into the ground. They have to get on rocks. Yeah. But again, it's kind of like, the alien, like these guys are putting you in a trap that you don't even realize. Like, it's, again, one of my favorite scenes from Predator is there's this scene where Arnold has all these knives and he has a predator trapped, and he just needs a predator to take like 2 steps. He's like, "Come on, Predator, come kill me." And then the predator like looks at the trap and he like figures it out. And you see in Arnold's face like he's like, "Oh fuck." And that's like, that always makes the movie more interesting when the animals or the creatures or whatever they are can adapt to you. Right. It's the same thing where like the famous scene where they're like, the kids will be safe in that room as long as the raptors don't figure out how to open doors, and immediately cuts to the door like opening. And it's the same thing with this one, but like they're always like, there's especially one that's really, really smart that we'll talk about later. But like there's a scene where they're frozen, and like Bert starts to go and he's like, no. This one knows that we're here. It's playing a trap on us. And so like they have to like realize that the Tremors are getting smarter. And I think that's like, again, it's so cool. And it makes it like, because the Tremors all look the same. They look like big worms. Right. They don't have any distinguishable features. But for some reason, the last one, I always like, he separates himself just because he's so smart. For really no reason.
He's the one that went on to form the Dune franchise.
Yeah, he's Shia LaBeouf.
Yeah, that's what they are. Yeah. They're the Dune
This is like the prequel to Dune.
That's how they came. Yeah.
It's in the same universe.
30,000 years in the past.
Yeah.
30,000 years of evolution, they become the same.
Melvin is actually Paul Atreides' great-grandfather.
Yeah. It is great. It's so good that it almost transcends its own like genre and kind of like premise to kind of be like, oh, this is like how these movies should be. But
I know, it was crazy.
See, and it's almost like transcends it, but also like it sets the foundation. Like if you ever ask like, hey, what's a good, like I'm writing a creature feature, what should I like kind of study? It's like, I'll study Tremors, because Tremors will tell you how to do it, And I think like there's a lot of movies that are like that, where it's almost like they're just so good at what they are that it's almost like it feels like they should be more like praised, which is, I mean, that's the whole point of our podcast.
Right.
But yeah, no, I think Tremors is fun. I think it's a lot of fun. I think like, oh, by the way, we won't spoil the ending because it's very good. Although I will say that there's a funny part where they all take off running, and none of them needed to take off running. Like they kind of ruined one of the plans by not staying still.
Which part?
But before we go, it's that part at the end where Kevin Bacon starts running, and then
and he has to like stay still.
Yeah. The other two like run after.
Yeah, they're like stay still, but they just don't. Yeah,
right.
She's like, "Oh, I got the keys here," or something like that.
Yeah, I remember thinking that I missed a part about that because that was insane. It's like the monster will get you. Like that's the whole deal. That's what we're doing here.
It works out.
You can't walk.
Just know that it all works out.
Yeah.
Before we get to the next part, I do want to say that when we watched this on TNT, the commercials used to say, let's find out if Kevin can save everyone's bacon.
Fuck yeah.
And I remembered that for 20 years just for this podcast.
That actually reminds me of something I wanted to mention too. I saw it on Wikipedia. I didn't know this before, but it was supposed to be rated R, and like they cut out 20 F-bombs and like a few other things to make it more like family friendly.
Oh
And so like
wow.
they say mother humper a lot,
Okay.
and like that's supposed to be obviously
Yeah.
motherfucker. And the people, the
Right.
filmmakers were like later on, like
Interesting.
this actually works way better as kind of like a PG-13.
It
And
does.
yeah, I
Kind
totally
of a family
agree.
friendly, yeah.
It's like the whole comedic
But
tone. Like if it was too dark, it'd be fucked up.
you just solved one of the biggest things that I've ever had, because after they kill they kill the first Tremor by having it run into a big into a ditch, into an irrigation ditch, and it dies. And it cuts to Kevin Bacon and Fred Ward as they figure out that it's dead. And Kevin Bacon goes, "Screw you!" And he said, "Screw you," but it's so clearly not screw.
Right. Like Galaxy Quest.
Because his mouth does it. Screw you. It's like,
that's the reason why.
that's so funny. I always like every time I watch it, I'm like, he doesn't say screw.
Right. And I mean, the violence is pretty gross.
I had no
There
idea.
you go. I guess
It's
It
like
really
pretty
is.
hardcore.
they could have used their one F-bomb, but maybe
Yeah.
they weren't going by that rule back then.
I know.
I don't know if
think
they
were
had
either.
that rule.
I think that was like the mid '90s.
But it's pretty well. And I think that they don't really count. There's like a crow. We got a haunted podcast.
Yeah,
it's outside
whoa.
my window. We have some big crows around here.
Don't go underground.
But before we leave, because we did get this episode got kind of messed up on the way, we decided to watch a couple more Tremors, because Tremors has 6 sequels.
Insane.
And so I watched which one did I watch? Oh, Cold Day in Hell.
I
And
think
Josh
that's
watched
number
Shrieker Island.
6. I watched number 7.
Josh, will you close that window for me? Thing that you should have done.
I kind of like the ambiance.
It would be good, but it is so loud. Because of Josh's fucking
I know,
super
his
mic that
megaphone.
he has.
This crow is 3 feet from me. Like when you said that, by the way, it literally was staring at me on my windowsill.
Don't talk about it.
I don't
Josh is
feed them or
having-
anything. I don't know.
He's nevermore, I
Yeah.
guess.
My sweet Joshua Bell Lee.
But
yeah.
they are
I have also seen part 2 and 3.
Okay.
Justin Andrew watches a lot of things. So yeah, I think so 2 is directed by the same director. Fred Ward comes back, Burt Gummer comes back. They explained that Valentine was Kevin Bacon and the girl got married and moved away, which is so funny when you watch it again and you're like, that girl was a geologist and Valentine was cleaning up septic tanks. So I don't know.
They had some things.
And then
they
that is true. They do make a point of saying that now everyone knows the story of the Graboids, and they've kind of I think Valentine got rich off of it, or they explained that one of them got rich off of it. And so the Tremors come back. The problem with the sequels is that it's almost like they're not as interested in the Tremors, because even by part 2, almost 20 minutes in, the Tremors explodes and a bunch of little Tremors that can walk come out. They're called Shriekers. And in Tremors 3, now the Shriekers can fly.
Oh, wow.
And it's like, hey guys, this movie's called Tremors, not Other Monsters.
Yeah.
Can we get back to those? And so even and then I watched the last one, part 6, which isn't the last one, it's the last one I watched. And it's in first of all, it's in the snow. It's supposed to be in the Arctic, but it's very clearly California.
Oh,
And
really?
then they don't even the first scene is all covered in snow, and then by the third scene, there's literally a girl in a bikini in the water. And I'm like, that's not. They just put a blue filter on everything.
Yeah.
Where is it supposed to take place? Like Alaska or something?
It's supposed to take place in the Arctic, not even in Alaska. In the Arctic, it's so cold that you can't even go outside without a full outfit. But they're in t-shirts and stuff.
Oh, wow.
And in that one, they just fight him. It's kind of I guess Bert is the main guy who stays, because Bert is in.
He's in every
2
movie.
and 3, and he's in 6. Yeah, I think he's in all of them.
Yeah, I looked it up. Yeah.
In this one, he's infected with the Tremors virus, and they have to save
Tremors
him.
virus?
And it's a really weird thing. Yeah, so what happened is in one of the other ones, he got eaten by a Tremor and had to cut his way out, and so the Tremor was sick with some kind of virus, and so he has that virus now and it's turning him insane. So they need a live tremor, and they're like, "How are we going to catch one of these alive to get like antibodies?" And it's like, guys, tremors are very easy to catch. They they jump out of the water. I mean, they jump out of the. The only thing that I'll say is cool is now apparently the tremors can leap out of the ground like a whale and then dive back in. Which doesn't really make a lot of sense.
I guess they gotta breathe.
That's funny because in 7 they say that Bert has post-traumatic graboid disorder, which I wrote down.
What a creep for that.
Yeah, 7 Shrieker Island is the final film in the series, I believe. To this point, it was 2020. And it's funny you say that in part 2 they had the Shriekers who are on like 2 legs, because that's pretty much like all this movie. It also is supposed to take place on a tropical island, clearly just filmed in probably the same California location 6 is filmed in.
It's the other part of the same
It's set. Just a jungle and a beach, and it's supposed to be like 30 different locations. It's funny because, you know, obviously the first movie, the town feels so like authentic, like you get that sense of place. Mm-hmm. In this, you're like, oh yeah, this is just a couple tents in the jungle. And then they're in this jungle, and it's supposed to be different, but it looks the same. But it's basically kind of a Jurassic Park Lost Worlds ripoff. The villain is Richard Brake, you know, Joe Chill from Batman Begins.
Yes.
A serial killer from like every Rob Zombie movie.
He's the guy in Devil's Rejects.
He is a multi-millionaire game hunter who's leading a team of mercenaries to fight the ultimate game, genetically engineered Shriekers on an island. So like rich people pay him to do it. And they have to do they do the like Burt Gummer is, again, I didn't even know Burt Gummer's name was this till this movie, because they say it like 100 times in this movie. They do the like, he's like in a remote cabin and he's got a beard and like long hair, and they're like, Burt, we need you to come back for one last mission. And he has to like shave down to his like iconic mustache and bald head. And like John Heder plays like the scientist, and they're like, you're no Burt Gummer, John Heder. It's
that's great.
It's not great.
That's great.
That's funny because when I was watching Cold as Hell or something, whatever it is, you're watching it, and then Jamie Kennedy walks in and he's like, "Hey, it's me, your best friend. I'm back." And I'm like,
"Where were you?"
Wait, Jamie Kennedy is in more than one Tremors. And then it's also like when I was watching it, it's crazy. Like if you don't, I assume that most of our audience knows Jamie Kennedy from like Scream or maybe like those type of movies.
Yeah.
But if you don't know Jamie Kennedy, like he did do those movies, but then for a while he became like an Eric Andre's like Jackass, Tom Green style.
Yeah, like a reality show. Yeah.
Where his reality show was like, oh, let me make people uncomfortable. So it's very funny to just see, and like, but his online, like his persona on the TV show became his real life persona, where he was very annoying. And so it's funny just to see him back acting again, like as if nothing like that didn't happen. And it doesn't do a bad job, but I don't know. There's also like in mine, Val, who's Kevin Bacon's character, his daughter is there, but she doesn't really have a personality. Mm-hmm. And like, I don't know. It's to me like, and I don't know if Josh thought the same thing, but I almost feel like, as much as I love Burt Gummer in the first one, his character is not enough to carry. Like, the more you learn about Burt Gummer, the less you want to learn.
Right. Yeah, it's very, you know, that's the weird. Okay, seeing him in 7, 30 years later, it is like, you know, like the James Bond movie No Time to Die, the last one, where they're like, you're like hard legacies, kind of like that's kind of how they play it. Like he's like the like secret agent badass of the Tremors verse, and it literally ends with him. Spoilers for Shrieker Island. There's a giant queen tremor, which they say that queen is Godzilla big, is a real line in this movie.
Cool.
But and Burt Gummer's like, you guys have to go, I'll hold it off. and he has to like set off the explosives to like kill the queen, Tremor, and it is like the final scene in No Time to Die where James Bond dies in an explosion, like played the exact same way, and so that's his final end is in Shrieker Island.
When did Shrieker Island come out versus James Bond?
2020, so literally 3 years ago.
Gotcha.
You know.
So Sam and Smell, we know what you've been doing. You've been copying Shrieker Island.
I was gonna say, you clearly ripped it off.
Yeah.
Which is very strange because the third Tremors is about how Bert's dad isn't real and molested him. It's like, oh.
You know what is funny too?
It's like, okay, he's taking a little bit too much.
And I thought this was kind of nice. Because this was supposed to be like the final Tremors movie, and his character dies, and he's the only one in all the movies. During the credits, they do like a montage of his character through all the Tremors movies. You know, and you're like, oh, that's kind of nice. Like, oh, he's like, it's mostly him shooting at Tremors. You know, which kind of what he does. But randomly in the middle, and this must be one of the movies none of us watched. It just shows him naked in a cage while a lion like tries to like get at him. And I was like, what? And then it just cuts back to him shooting at Tremors.
It would be hilarious if that's not even in any of the movies.
Yeah, that was in my dream.
Also, like that's the thing that kind of sucks is we were talking a little bit about how the first one, especially the camera works so well, sound design and everything, and like. That's not by the sixth one. That's completely.
Oh yeah, it's like sci-fi original garbage. Yeah,
it would be funny like the montage where it's like real movie, and then it just cuts to like medium shots of everything, like plain medium shots without any real lighting.
Yeah.
It's also what's weird. It's funny you said that they're on two lakes thing starts in 2 because it's like that was the scariest part of Tremors is that they're in the ground.
Mm-hmm.
So then in every other movie you're like, well, it's just gonna run at me. I'm gonna shoot it. That's a lot easier than if it came out of the ground.
I agree. Yeah.
Yeah. So Tremors, one good movie and a lot of bad.
I think also like even 12-year-old Andrew, when he saw Tremors 2, I was like, okay, I don't want to see them walking. Like that's completely beside.
Yeah, they're Tremors.
Yeah, they are. Especially in the jungle, you're like, oh, they're just raptors. Like you just made the Tremors into raptors. But
and if I'm not mistaken, it came out pretty close to those movies, so I wonder if that's exactly why they
like
walked.
After Jurassic Park.
They kind of make the raptor shriek too. Shriekers, you know. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. They call them shriekers, and then they call the ones that fly ass blasters, and it's like, guys, stop naming them.
Don't. There are no flying ones in Shrieker Island. I can say that.
That's weird. That for the last one, they're like, oh, no flying ones.
They probably just didn't want to deal with
Let's get back to our roots.
Yeah. They never come out of the ground in part 7. One of them comes out of a river once. Otherwise, they're just above ground in the jungle. So.
That is funny to me. Maybe we'll one day do maybe I'll do even a deep dive of like what movie is furthest removed from its original movie. You know, like there's this series where by the end of it there's barely even Tremors. I think of like Dusk Till Dawn, where like by the third one it's like not even about Mexico anymore.
Right.
Oh yeah.
I wonder if we could find it.
What is like, and I've never seen all these, but you know, you mentioned like how Tremors 1 is kind of like Jaws 1, just perfectly put together. It's like, and Jaws had like 5 terrible sequels too.
Yeah,
it's just
the Jaws sequels get better and better, so it's different.
I don't think that's the case.
Everyone loves 3D Louis Gossett Jr.
It's the sharks just coming at you.
I've only ever seen Jaws 1. I've never seen any of the sequels.
I don't think the only one that you should watch, maybe we'll talk about it, is Jaws the Revenge, because like there's a point where Jaws, like at the very end, I think they forgot to shoot the ending. So like someone shoots the Jaws, like someone shoots the shark, but the shark is just in the water. He doesn't have anything. And so someone shoots him, then that shark remembers that Brody shot the other shark and blew that other shark up, and then that shark blows up.
Nice. Just
for no reason.
The genetic memory of its grandfather. Yeah.
So Carl Jung was right.
They try to do that thing. Where the sharks are all connected to the mothership,
right.
and so
it's a collective. The brine mind.
But yeah, those aren't good. But yeah, Tremors, we wanted to cover it, especially because it's the middle of summer. It's the perfect time to check out Tremors. It's like the ultimate summer movie.
Yeah, so head on down to Perfection, Nevada.
Right, which is actually your own hometown. It's perfect wherever you are.
Damn.
That's fair.
That's right. That's
in
what we think on the bomb.
In my mind, Hobbs is like a Perfection, Nevada type town.
I grew up around everybody who lived in Perfection. There were a few more people, but it was exactly like I love that movie so much.
Pretty much the same dynamic.
Yeah. I knew people like Reba and her husband for sure. I'm not sure what they're up to now, but they were nice to me then. We'd fight this against things. So I like to leave that just. You don't want
to much like the Tremors series. You want to leave the Burt Gummers back in the 90s.
Yeah, exactly. I want to think.
Yeah, let's not check his Facebook page today. We don't want to see what he's saying about modern society.
But thank you guys. We recorded this episode twice.
Great fucking film.
Tremors, super cool. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Go check it out. Let us know what you think, and have fun. Let us know if you guys have watched any of the sequels. You don't really ever comment that much on these, but if you do, let us know which sequels you watched. And tell us.
Tell us if you have Shriekers.
I saw the one where they're cowboys. It wasn't good. Or maybe is there a hidden gem?
Yeah.
That we will never find.
Tell me if you saw the one where he's naked in a cage while lions attack him. Right. I'm very curious.
And do not give us any context.
Yeah. Maybe an illustration. But
thank you guys. Thanks for joining us on the bomb. Yeah. You can only do it through your own hand-drawn illustrations.
Right.
Thank you for joining us on the Bomb Squad, and we'll see you guys next time.